Well, good evening, and this is December 27th, 28th, last Friday of the year, and I would like to welcome all of you from Kaplan Morrell to all our friends, neighbors, coworkers, and colleagues on this, a very lovely last Friday of the year, when we go into the weekend, and then we go into New Year's Eve, and then we start 2019, and sadly, my dream of flying around in a flying car is not yet a reality. But I've got a massive computer in my pocket called an iPhone that I can miraculously talk to everyone live on in the planet who cares to listen. So I guess there's some good things about the future. I wanted to talk today about some of the most expensive cases and fatal cases in work injuries, because unfortunately we do have work injuries, fortunately relatively few for people who are injured on the job who pass away. Now, the numbers that I have are from the Division of Workers' Compensation in Colorado. They create this massive report for each year on work injuries, and it's got all sorts of statistics, etc., on claims. And so the numbers that we have are from 2013, about 5 years old. And in 2013, there were 73 fatalities on the job injuries. Somewhat not surprising is the fact that almost 92%, 67 of the 73 folks who were injured on the job and killed were men. 6 women of the 73 were killed. That's about 8.2%. And by and large, the most dangerous gender and age to be working at is to be male, and 50 to 59. 31% of on-the-job fatalities were from people who were in their 50s to 50 in their 50s. 23% came from your 40s, and about 20% were over 65 years old. Most of them were married or separated, which is kind of, if you think about it, a little bit of a strange category. But I suppose if you are just considered separated, you're considered married. 2/3 were separated, married. So it's a dangerous job out there, particularly if you're working around machinery, you're working along heights, if you're working on scaffolds, etc. Obviously, if you're working around dangerous equipment, electricity, chemicals, like massively dangerous chemicals. Most fatalities, though, come from the transportation and warehousing sectors of employment. So we're talking car crashes by and large. In terms of what happens for the non-fatal, what are the most costly injuries at least in 2013, we kind of rank that by cause of injury and what's called lost time. In workers' compensation, a injury is not a lost time injury unless it results in 3 or more shifts of lost work. So sometimes, if you'll see in movies or in news shows, or even if you happen to be near a plant or some sort of production facility, construction facility, and it talks about how many days they've been injury-free, they're really not counting, people who may have had paper cuts, etc. They're talking about, and they're defining injuries as injuries that resulted in more than 3 days or 3 shifts of lost time. And so that's why one of the favorite sad practices of some employers is to have their injured workers have surgery on a Friday afternoon, and so there's no lost time then. They have Saturday and Sunday to recover, and Monday by gosh, we're going to put them back to work. We're going to have them working in the nurse's station. We're going to have them wiping down tables in the employer cafeteria, even if they're all bandaged up, etc. And they're doing that for two reasons. Number one is to not incur more than 3 shifts lost work. Because once you do that, then it becomes what's called a reportable claim, not just to the Division of Workers' Compensation in Colorado, but also to OSHA. And so there's a big effort to reduce injuries that that do not lead to more than 3 days or 3 shifts of lost time. But the ones that do, the number one cause of the number one kind of injury that leads to lost time at work, 36.4% are strains. So we're talking about you're lifting something, you feel a pop or a twist in your back, in your arm, and your legs. Strains, 36%. Number 2 is at 13%. So you can, off the top, already know the biggest injury in terms of costs are going to be you lifting something, pushing something, pulling something is going to lead to the most kind of costly kinds of injuries. Number 2 is at 13%, and that's contusions. And contusions are just kind of a fancy way of saying you've been hit. So they're bumps, bruises, you've been knocked into. And then you've got fractures, lacerations, but all of those are like 6% and under. So the number one cause of kind of lost time injuries are what are called sprains and strains. And together, those two make up about 48% of lost time injuries. It's unfortunate that people get injured at all, and fortunately in Colorado we have, like other states, we have what's called a workers' compensation system, and that is a law designed to make sure that you and your loved ones, if you are injured on the job, that you've got some immediate access to basic benefits, and those basic benefits are medical benefits, lost time benefits, lost wage benefits, and some compensation for what's called your permanent impairment. There's some minor other benefits and some other major benefits like permanent total disability, but the vast majority of workers are going to get medical care 100% covered, lost time during their treatment, and typically some form of an impairment rating. How much you get depends on your injury, your adjuster, your doctor, and you need to understand that everybody in the system except for you is motivated by one thing, and that is to pay the least amount possible. And that's not because they're evil necessarily, it's just similar to if you're going to the grocery store and you have a choice and you can pay $5 for a 6-pack of soda or $6 for a 6-pack of soda, and it's the same soda, you might as well pay $5. And so what they're trying to do is they're just trying to pay as little as possible. But the problem is that you've got to eat what they're paying for. And so that's why injured workers need somebody who knows the system and who can fight for them and push back and try to get them the most. Because when you're injured on the job, the benefits are limited as it comes, and it just makes sense for you to get somebody who will make sure that you get the most that you're entitled to under the law. Happy New Year, happy end of 2018, and I hope that 2019 is prosperous and safe for all of you. Again, at Kaplan Morrell, we're here to help you, so please feel free to give us a call at 970-356-9898. And with that, we're done.